All right, Yev, welcome to the podcast, man. Maybe let's start out by just giving a little bit of background to the listeners. How did you get into such a specific niche of Facebook ads for Amazon sellers? How did you arrive at being the expert for such a specific thing like that?
Nice to be here, Danny. Thanks for having me. And it was overall experience where there was a big need for us, where kind of like this brand in between Amazon world and e-commerce and retail. So it was like had to figure out for ourselves, and then doing that for a couple of years and being around and kind of like a mix of types of marketers and entrepreneurs and brands, where some were focused only on Amazon, some only on e-commerce, their own website, and just me always being integrative in my career, trying to connect different strategies together, different disciplines together. That it just happened to be that way, where it's kind of connecting the Facebook ad world with the Amazon world.
So you had a really early success with the brand you're working with called HeroClip that you use them as an example quite a bit, right? What was that like, going through that process of really figuring out the chops with Facebook ads to grow that brand on Amazon?
It was one of those things where just being able to experiment a lot. So we're kind of like in this startup mode where we have to turn off things really fast that aren't working because we have a limited budget, but at the same time we did have a marketing budget. So it's this mindset where you launch something, if it's not working, turn it off really fast and find something that's working really quick. So it's being able to be in that position of which later turned on like the actual strategies. You just have to cut losers really fast. So we had to figure out for ourselves, and running a lot of Facebook advertising, that was our main way of traffic to our website, and then indirectly to Amazon, and then to Amazon. So it's amplifying our Amazon for Facebook traffic. But it's basically just testing so much because we had to find something that's kind of like the winner, something that's getting us email signups or purchases on our website or on Amazon. So it's like really going all in that mode of testing really heavy, and then also applying a lot of my previous experience kind of from like a data science perspective of being able to kind of like navigate the algorithms that are happening on Facebook and on Amazon to to test at a really fast scale.
Yeah, and give us an idea of the timeline and the budget that really took to figure out. I think a lot of people with the Amazon products, they take a couple $100 and put them in Facebook ads, and they don't get immediate results and they give up, right? So maybe just give us like roughly how much money did you spend over how long to really get that dialed in and figure it out?
Yeah, and so this was the really interesting part, and this was a little over a year ago, so not that long. It's not like we did it like such a long time ago that like the whole game has changed, but it's the concept that still applies from kind of like from data theory and how Facebook works, how the algorithm works, why it works, and still today there's new brands that I'm seeing that they're following the exact same strategy and it's working for them. And it's basically testing so many different variations, and then you're cutting losers, but you're kind of like having these separate clusters of tests that you're doing for images and copy and audiences, and then you're kind of like combining the winners of the different ones, and then you're seeing results where you're getting engagement that you normally wouldn't if you only, let's say, like throw like 3 pictures to test there, or like just a couple of ads. And this is what I see in most Amazon sellers, where you kind of like reviewing their ad account, they're kind of like asking you for feedback, and I see like 1 or like 2 or 3 ads in there. I'm like you're not even testing anything. You just have a couple of ads and you think it's going to be doing well or not, but you don't know because you're not testing enough variety. So for us, and exactly for your question is how long it took on the types of budgets. And so we kind of had 2 approaches. One is we wanted to figure out, so we kind of had like 2 different budgets doing it, where we know we wanted to repeat this process with different campaigns. And there was this 1 week period where before that we were just like always testing ads for a really long time, like meaning for like it was over 6 months where like couldn't really get profitable ads or ads going, and it was ranging between like $10 per day, $50 per day. It's kind of like at that level, and sometimes seeing sales, but it was like very pulsy. And then there was this 1 week where I kind of like put all of these different strategies together and applied this methodology, and it took this 1 week period where I kind of like found out like what like that little trick was for me. And that's where it was You could do it at a very small scale, meaning like $5 per ad set with one ad per ad set. So meaning just like one ad, $5 per day. But the key is you have to have a lot of variance, but still at like the minimum budget, just like $5 per ad set is enough. So you kind of have these segments of testing, and each one has to be like a couple $100 per test. I think you have to go at that level. If it's too low, if it's lower than that, you're just not going to have enough confidence to knowing that a certain image has more engagement and then later on more sales. So basically I had like these 3 phases of tests that I've done, and each one was several $100s. So
let's
later
break that down a little bit. You say a lot of different ad sets and one ad per ad set, and roughly $200 per test. So how many ads in total are in one of these $200 tests?
Yeah, so like the 3 different phases, in one of them is where I'm testing as many images as possible. And I know like people say, like, oh yeah, just test everything. Like just everything is out there. And
picture
then you
of
have
your
like,
grandma, picture of your dog.
like tens of thousands of dollar budget. So like that's not the case, because again, I'm coming back to where you have to cut losers really fast. And this, even though if you're projecting to, let's say, spend $500 in a campaign, you're not even gonna get through all the $500 because like, one day in, you're gonna turn off a whole bunch of them. So basically, so like the way I've done it, and I've seen variations as little as like 15 ads, but the way I did it was around 35 ads. So it's 35 ad sets and 1 ad per ad set. Like basically I want a controlled experiment where everything is the same. It's the same audience that's similar to your customers, or like a lookalike of your previous customers. So just like same audience, like same copy, a very general headline and body, like same destination, where everything is the same, except I'm only changing the image. So then I had 35 variants, and a very mixed. They have to be diverse. It can't be like, let's say if you have like a food product, it can't be like 35 pictures of a plate with different food. It's like psychologically, it's almost the same. It has to be like different angles, like different styles, like lifestyle or product only. Like weird angles, so things that work really well for us, and I see like mostly for others too, is where there has to be curiosity behind it. So like around 35 ads, and you kind of have to, after you come up with like 10 or 15 images, and some of these are so simple, like literally just like take your phone and take a picture of whatever your product is at a weird angle where you can't really tell what it is, but you kind of can, but not really. Like I bet you it's going to be like a top 10 ad. Like whenever I like make that recommendation, others like test it, it's usually like one of the top performing ads, or it's doing better than previous ads that they've ran. Because one of the things is that like don't worry about purchases yet. People like they create ads like, all right, I want purchases, but you're going against the Facebook algorithm. You're going against so many other advertisers. First, you have to get people to engage with the ad and like click on it. Like not like clickbaity stuff, but they have to click with your ad. Click the ad so the cost goes down, and then you're kind of moving into the next phases of testing, or later you're going to be doing like optimizations and kind of like how is Facebook delivering your ad, like those aspects. But if you're worrying about that later, like actually getting purchases, you're not going to get to the right testing at the right time. You're going to be like spending more money waiting for purchases, but you're like starting out with a crappy ad. So you kind of have to be the algorithm first by doing some sort of image testing, and then the second phase I had copy testing, where it was like one image, and then I tested like 35 different variants of copy, like short ones, longer ones. Again, getting a different psychologies of people. Some are that are more like analytical, some are more emotional, some are more like want to know about the product, some about like the lifestyle, some are kind of like social proof driven. So kind of like just like make those like 8 different categories of types of buyers that your customers might be, or different psychologies, and then have like 4 to 6 examples of each one, and then those are going to be your different images or your different copy.
So are you choosing one single image out of the original 35 or so images that you split tested? You're just choosing the one single winner, or are you taking a couple? Just one?
No, it has to be a general one, kind of like something that's safe, meaning that like the general like demographic of your audience will kind of like resonate with it. It's not like you're not beating like the Facebook algorithm yet. It's just like something that people will see it and they'll be like, okay. So it could be kind of like the product being used, but like lifestyle. So kind of like half and half between lifestyle and product use, not just like a bottle of the product. Like that's probably a bad one. or like only lifestyle where it has nothing to do with the actual product. So just like a general picture, because you want the copy, like the actual words that are getting people to like click or not or engage with the ad, you want that to be the differentiator. So that's why like the image, it should be just something that's like safe, okay, general. And then
so you're not taking the winning image from your image split testing then. You're not waiting until the image split test is finished and then taking that winner to the copy. You're running two separate tests at the same time, right?
And when I actually did them at the same time in terms of like the timeline. Those were running at the same time, just a whole bunch of images and a whole bunch of copy. And then in the third phase, and this is where it gets super interesting, and this is where like it changes the brand for us. And I see like almost nobody doing this. And then whenever I see different brands trying this, like it's still working today. So like this would be like the biggest takeaway is that then you take your top winners from the images and your top winners from the copy, and then a couple of wild cards in there, because later on you're probably going to ask like, well, what's the definition of a winner? Is it click-through rate? Is it, like, is the goal like an Amazon purchase or a website purchase or getting an email subscriber? So like the winner, there's different definitions of that. But when you combine them, you're going to see metrics, like the data for that is going to be higher than normal, because you're combining the best of two worlds, meaning that the images, typically they have a higher variation of something like click-through rate, because like people like stop like scrolling through the news feed or like on the desktop or on mobile, where it like gets their attention. The image does that more than the words, because it's just like visually there. And then the copy has a tendency of being more of like driving the person in further. So it's kind of like the image is the first stop, and then the copy is like, all right, the image caught their attention. Now does the copy make sense for their lifestyle, or like, the problem that they're having in their life, or the solution that they want? So then
it's kind of like if you met someone on the street, you meet an attractive member of the opposite sex, their looks caught your attention, but then you have a conversation with them, and it turns out they're an actually interesting person, right? It's so funny. I love the parallels between like the dating world and online marketing. It's so useful to use that in a lot of different contexts.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of like, you mix the best ones and a couple of wild cards, meaning that, so usually what I do, I take like the top 3 images, and then I do each one with like top 10 copy. And then the other way around, I take the top 3 copy and then run a variant of like top 10 images. So that way, again, I'm going to have like over 30 variants running, like even more, because I throw in a bunch of wild cards. Like for example, like the 4th best image with, some of the top copy, because I just want to put that combination together, because there's like some metric that was interesting. So for example, when I choose like what's the top 3 or the top 10, usually I go by click-through rate, but only initially, because later on click-through rate is like a bad metric to go by. Later on you want, like your email, your subscribers or your purchases. But initially, again, kind of thinking about the right step in the right order. Like right now, we still want to navigate the Facebook algorithm. So that's why click-through rate is important. You basically want people to engage with the ad. Facebook to think, all right, like we're going to charge this like ad account less money than other advertisers, because our Facebook users aren't engaging with those other ads. So let's charge this person more money so we can get more reach. So that's kind of like how Facebook sees it. So click-through rate, and in the images you're going to see like between like 1% and 3%, like your average ad, just what I see, just like people put out like their ad and they get like 1% click-through rate, and they don't really know like if it's good or bad. That's probably like on the average end, like maybe on the lower end. But like with testing, like if you do the testing, you'll see you'll have some that are like 2%, like maybe a couple that are like 3% or higher. There may be a few that are in like the 4 or 5% click-through rate. And I'm talking about unique link click-through rate, because there could be just like all kinds of clicks, somebody clicking on the ad, but if they're actually clicking the link in the ad. And then with the copy testing, you're also going to see that variation, but a smaller variation, because the copy isn't as getting the attention more. So you're going to see between like 0.5% and 1.5% click-through rates from the copy variation. But then when you're combining some of the best ones, and this is what we saw for us, where we saw some click-through rates that are over 10%. And that's because we like found these images that were individually between like 3 and 5%. And then the copy that was also like the top end, which was like over 2%. So between like 2 and 3% were some of the best copy. but the best copy, it was like using an image that was just like, okay, a general one. So when we combined them, we had image and copy combinations where the click-through rates were over 10%. And then like over time, like it was still stable over 10%. And again, this is for engagement. Later we have to worry about purchases. So then we see that click-through rates are like between like 5 and 7%, the ones where like we kind of optimize over time and like test to actually get purchases as well, not just clicks.
That is absolutely genius. So I just want to make sure that I understand this correctly. Once you have the winners of the split test of both the copy and the photos, you are then split testing every single possible combination of each other. Like what is that, 10 of each, and it comes out to 30 or something like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, combinations, but only amongst the winners. Because, you know, if it's like the 12th best image and 13th best copy, there's like no sense really in combining it. So what I mentioned before, how there's like some wild cards. So initially I look at the click-through rate, but there's going to be other metrics that are very interesting. For example, ratio of shares to likes. If somebody is sharing something and not just sharing it, but actually more than, you know, other ads where they're getting like likes or reactions, but not shares, then that's like a very interesting metric. So there might be some ads where their click-through rate is just like average, but the share to like ratio is like really high. So I'm like, there's something about that ad. People are sharing it for some reason. Or like an abnormal, like high amount of add to carts or like unique content visits. So there's other metrics where if it's like, you know, like in the top 5% of all of the ads, then I count it as a wild card, regardless of what the click-through rate was. So then when I mix all of those, the best ones, it's like based on click-through rate, and a couple that are like those unique ones where, again, this is where, so you asked originally about timeline and budget, where originally I ran the test, and that was where like after a couple of days, like each phase was done, and then I continued the phase, meaning where I don't know how confident I am. Like I didn't spend that much money, and I'm like I see like this really high click-through rates. So what if I let those run longer, and basically running it for a week and longer, because we knew this was where like Q4 was coming up. So we're like, all right, we like how to figure out we can't spend too much if we know it's not going to work. But when I did it for like a week and longer, the individual phases, the results were similar compared to like the very short version. Meaning that you're going to see some day-to-day fluctuations, but whatever are your best ads after like a week, they're probably your best ads throughout like day to day. Because I noticed that when I took the week results and I kind of looked at day by day, like usually like the top 5 ads were somewhere like near like in the top 10 out of the 30 ads. You know, sometimes one just didn't do well and it was like in the bottom 20, but like usually that day-to-day variation like averages out over 7 days. But if you're like on a very low budget, the main thing is as many variations as possible. And this makes so much sense from a statistical standpoint, because, you know, Facebook, just like Amazon, there's just a whole bunch of engineers and data scientists working there. So what's happening is that even if you run, let's say, like $5 budgets and you have 100 variants, and let's say a couple of hours into the test, you already turn off half of them. So you're not even going to spend all that budget. You're going to make decisions really fast. And if you have a really crappy ad and you spend like $2 of the ad, it may get like 0 clicks or like 1 click, like maybe 2 clicks. So that's kind of like your cost per click is like, you know, $1, $2. And that's actually like, that's an average I see. I mean, it's like kind of high. But if you have the ads that are getting the really high click-through rates, you're going to see for that same cost, you're going to see 5 or 10 times more clicks. Like that's because it's such a better ad. Again, like that top percentages. So even at a small budget, you're going to see that difference between people engaging with the ad or not. So I would always like, the first takeaway was kind of like combine those winners and like have that with like your combination test. And the second takeaway, like this is always the hardest one because it's going to take like mental resource, kind of like coming up with more copy or more images, is like go wider in the testing. So have like 30 images, like 50 images if you can, you know, because if you're at like 10 images and you're like, I'll just make the budget higher. Like, no, actually make the budget lower and go for more variety, at least in this initial test, because it's the algorithm you're trying to fight. And then once you get to that stage, then it gets really fun. Like, you're just seeing like subscribers and like purchases coming in because like you're sending more traffic at a much lower cost. That's what the initial test gave you. So you kind of like invested in that part, and then you're kind of then figuring out like your funnel, and then are you sending people to your website or to Amazon? Like, that comes later after you set your best foot forward with a like good combination of ads.
That makes perfect sense. And before we move on to the off Facebook stuff, I think a lot of people struggle with what metrics to really pay attention to on Facebook ads, because you touched on something before. There's clicks, and then there's unique clicks and stuff like that. And Facebook metrics, a lot of people are very confused what they should really be looking at. So can you recommend what are the top 5 or 6 key metrics that people should really be looking at to see how their ads are performing?
Yeah, and for this, you want me to focus on like Amazon sellers running Facebook ads, right? Not just like anybody?
Yeah, Amazon sellers.
Yeah, so there's 2 parts to this. One is ultimately you want Amazon sales. So you have to see, is your metric for Amazon sales like actually getting the Amazon sales, or you have other strategies in place of where you want to get as many emails subscribers as possible, or chatbot subscribers as possible. So then you do your launches and you're going to get your keyword ranking and like momentum in Amazon. So you're okay with not having sales exactly from the ad, but you want to like grow your list. That way you kind of like know what you do on the back end to how to use that list to get sales on Amazon. So in that case, your metric is like that subscriber. So it's like cost per lead or cost per subscriber. And that's basically like the thank you page when somebody signs up on your website to be part of the email list. Like that cost is the most important one. So you can grow your list. And then once you're getting, so like this is for us, as soon as we figured out, we went to hundreds of email subscribers every day, like really fast. And it's been like consistent since then. So then we know like this is how many emails we're getting and how many purchases we're getting, how much we're spending. So it's cost per that subscriber. So for us, we use Zone Tracker to track the Amazon sales that are coming from Facebook ads. So ultimately, that's like the number one thing was like how many Amazon sales you're getting. And that's like so deep into the funnel. It's kind of like earlier on, you want like for whether it's like beginners or even for a campaign to like fail or not, you kind of have to like step back from that. Like the purchases are coming like way later. Initially, it's some of that engagement and so like this is where like click-through rate like is not actually good. Like for the strategies I gave, that's more of like the algorithm, kind of get that for to set the best foot forward. But then when you're ready to grow your email subscribers or like sending people to Amazon, whether it's directly, but I recommend like doing it like via your website or via a chatbot, is that you want to do it based on some sort of second view of your web page. So that's probably the easiest to understand, that if you're sending people to a landing page for, let's say, like a coupon exchange, that's like a very common type of funnel, to a landing page, and then you get some sort of coupon or you join a VIP list, and then you hit the thank you page, and then either you get an email after that, or on the thank you page, there's a link to Amazon. So what you want is for Facebook to optimize whoever is making to that second page of your website. So it's not just the landing page, whoever clicked from the ad, because it could be a low quality audience, especially if you're sending people directly to Amazon from your Facebook ad. That rarely works. I definitely don't recommend doing that. Your conversion rate is usually way under 1% and usually under like 0.1% of somebody purchasing, like unless you have a very deep discount. So if you're sending people to your website, you want to track that second step.
It's like the thank you page after they have taken the action, they've given you their email list, they've done what you want them to do, and this is like the thank you page, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, either the thank you page, or even before that, if you want to like extend the customer journey, you want to pixel a link click. So whatever that initial page is, whether it's content or it's information about the product, and then they click to find out more information, either more details about the product or then going to the Amazon page or some sort of further engagement, then it's making sure that when somebody clicks that link click is pixeled, and there's different tools that do that. So to make sure that then Facebook is optimizing for that, like for Facebook users that will actually take that second step, because then you can build a lookalike of who's doing the additional engagement, not just everybody that goes to your page. Then you don't know if they're making the purchase on Amazon yet, so like Zontrack could help part with that, but then still you don't know fully because you could do it in so many ways, if you're giving them a coupon code or not, or if they're just engaging with your ad or your chatbot or your website and then they're going to Amazon.
Yeah, so I want to jump into Zontracker in a second. If a lot of you guys are into Facebook ads and you're like, what the heck is Yev talking about? I can't track, if people are making sales on Amazon from my Facebook ads and everything. Well, Yev actually has a really cool software that helps with that. But first, I just want to dive into what we're diving into here, which I think is the number one thing people struggle with when it comes to Facebook ads driving to Amazon. Like, I think a lot of people can understand what you're saying about optimizing the Facebook ads and getting that all good, but that's only half the picture. You have where you're sending the people from the Facebook ads. You mentioned to a landing page where they could get a coupon. You mentioned ManyChat messenger bots where you can follow up with them on a sequence. There's so many different combinations. This is where I think a lot of people get totally lost and end up going wrong. So maybe just go over like what are the different avenues that are working well today, and when and what situations are you going to use each one?
Yeah, well, there's like over 10 different scenarios, so maybe I'll just go over some of them.
Maybe the top couple that are right now. I know there's a million different combinations that you could potentially do.
But so maybe I'll say one to not do one because it's the most common one, and that's creating an ad and you're sending people directly to your Amazon, whether it's some sort of two-step URL or whatever it is, or to your Amazon product listing directly from the Facebook ad. Just like, don't do that one because the conversion rate is so low. Like, you have to either have a really big discount, or it has to be some sort of like a retargeting ad where you're putting people through a journey in Facebook where maybe they see a video and then a certain percentage then sees an ad that then takes you to Amazon. Then that could work. But like, usually it's the easiest one. Like, oh, I don't need a landing page. It's like Facebook ad to Amazon, but that's really hard to convert. But if you have something intermediate, so either like a chatbot or a landing page, and it could be exchanged for anything, whether it's a coupon code or entering some sort of VIP group or even content, like any of those, like that intermediate page works really well. So one of the things with then tracking the Amazon sales, so let's say if you use a coupon code, someone has to use the coupon code for you to know that it worked or not. And usually with a coupon code, that's where you probably have to give like a pretty good discount, like for somebody to use it. And one of the things is that we found that for us, around 10 to 15% of users, when they see the Facebook ad, they just open up Google or they open up Amazon, just like in the new tab. Like, it could happen either of those ways. And then they search for the brand and then they purchase on Amazon because they saw the ad. So they never click the ad. So there's different methods where you can use like an affiliate link and kind of track that way. And Amazon may or may not be having like a problem with that depending how you're using the affiliate link. But that means they have to click the affiliate link. If you're giving them coupon code, that means they have to take that coupon code, put it into Amazon, and then you're kind of tracking that way. But then again, you're gonna have to like do all of these extra steps of knowing which ad had which affiliate link or which ad had which coupon code. And if you're following a more legit Facebook ad strategy where you have kind of like a lot of variants, so you can like turn off the ones that aren't working, that means you have like so many different coupon codes to track up or so many affiliate links. So that's one of the things where one thing you can do is then you can take all of your Amazon customers and then like upload them. There's like different ways of doing that. Like, if you have a lot of time or have a VA doing that, you can like pull a report or use different tools out there that can like pull the Amazon data, and then you have to put it in the right format and upload it to Facebook as an offline conversion. So you can get that sale data based on matching into Facebook. So that's like, could be like a free way of doing it. Like, it'll take you time or maybe like a VA cost of doing that, But with Zon Tracker, I basically automated that. So it's kind of like a paid way where it's like always running in the background. Anytime you're getting Amazon sales, it's sending that data back to Facebook. And then you can see exactly which ad is leading to the Amazon sales. So in the one scenario where you said, like, all right, what are some of the best practices is, one of them is to some sort of landing page. And then if somebody goes to that landing page, let's say you're not even getting an email, like you're not capturing an email, because this could get into some more advanced strategies where even if you don't have their email, like you're pixeling them. If you have multiple content or multiple pieces of content and articles where they're engaging with the site, Facebook is keeping track of all of that. So then you could show a retargeting ad based on their activity. So like the retargeting ad is like a alternative email list. So then you could send people then after that to another website page or to Amazon, and a sale may happen. Like somebody may go to your landing page and they're like, oh, like what is this brand hero clip? Or like if it's an easily recognizable brand, meaning like they can actually search for your brand on Amazon and then they'll find and purchase. And that's what I mentioned, where it's like on average like 12% of the sales that are coming through, like they never click the ad. So they just kind of like open up a browser somewhere, Google or Amazon, and then they find us and then they purchase. And then we see that data later on, which before we never knew that. And you'll never know that from a coupon code or an affiliate link click.
Okay, so let's dive into that. So that is data that you can only get by using your software, right? Zon Tracker, because before that is, you couldn't tell if someone like landed on your landing page and then later on went to go purchase on Amazon, right?
Yeah, and this is very similar to like offline conversions. You're like taking that data and putting it back into Facebook. So Zon Tracker is very similar to that. I basically automated that process. But yes, like the other methods were like coupon codes, affiliate tracking, and there's also like the Amazon, like different storefront and like different analytics where like it's not possible with any of those. So in Zon Tracker, it's any of those scenarios, whether somebody sees the ad and then they just go directly to Amazon, like they just type it up, or they Google you because like people are comfortable with Google, and then the Amazon result comes up in the Google search result page, then they go to your page. Or another thing, and we do this very commonly, so like this is very interesting. It's a little bit harder to track, and this is maybe for kind of like more advanced brands, but if you have hopes of like getting into retail, or you're kind of like getting into retail where you could run ads to like the retailers' websites, so like rei.com or like wherever you're selling, like run an ad that's directly pointing onto there. And some people, they love their Prime shipping. They'll see the ad as the brand awareness, and then they're going to just open up Amazon anyway, Amazon.com, and then they'll purchase, and that data is going to get sent back to you. They might purchase on the retailer side, and that's good for you. You might get purchase orders from retail, but that's another way where you're like sending traffic somewhere, and someone will purchase on Amazon, or a similar approach with like blogs or influencers. If somebody mentions you somewhere, whether it's on a Facebook page or anywhere else, like make that be the destination of your ad. Because if you're promoting yourself like indirectly, like you're not talking about yourself, but others are talking about you, there's certain types of buyers where they like that a lot more. So if they see like a third-party review, like send people to there, because in there they might link to like the Amazon page, or the Facebook viewer might just by themselves go onto Amazon after they see that article. But that data will then come back to your account, and it'll show up under your ad where you sent people to that other page that doesn't even belong to you.
That is very, very smart. And sorry, guys, if we're getting into some super, super technical stuff here. But I mean, that is really how technical Facebook ads can be. A lot of people, they just try to do it way too simple with only a few different ads. And they try one different thing to send them to like a landing page with a coupon and then to Amazon. And they spend $200 and it doesn't work, right? But it really is very, very complicated. You can do things in so many different ways. And if you're not really tracking the right metrics, you don't really know where you went wrong. And then your $200 is now wasted because you didn't get any results from it. And now you don't know why it went wrong, right? So maybe let's talk a little bit about the importance of like looking at the metrics and using that to see what is happening.
Yeah, and this is where, so I'll probably say that simplicity usually always wins. So there are all of these different methods and approaches, like of types of funnels you could run or like where the destinations are. But within each of those methods or approaches, then you want to keep it simple. So if you're like going the landing page route, like, yes, keep it simple, because that's going to be the one that's probably going to work the best. But that's where you have the variance. So coming back to the metrics, that's where you want to look at the right metrics at the right time. So at the beginning of the presentation, we started talking about kind of like beating the Facebook algorithm, like navigating it. So that's where like click-through rates and cost per clicks are important in the early stages, when you're narrowing down from a lot of ads to just a few. Later on, when you've narrowed down to some, that's when you want to pay attention to either cost per email subscriber or cost per that second page view or that pixel link click, so what that cost is. So without repeating too much stuff from before, like I would say like that would be the foundation of the metrics to look at. Did you want me to go in a certain direction of like what you meant more about, kind of like how metrics matter, or anything I didn't say before?
Maybe give us one or two examples of you see a certain metric and you can use that to come to a conclusion. Okay, so my click-through rate is too high, so that means that I need to change the ad copy or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, great question. And so I have like this solution where it's kind of like for non-data people, where I know sometimes I talk to people, and because I'm like, I kind of started out with like a science and data background, like I talk and then sometimes like the data flies over the person's head and then I have to try to simplify it, which is not an easy thing to do with data. But what I like to do is a relative comparison. It kind of doesn't matter for you to know, like, is 1% good or should it be 3%? And are we talking about click-through rates or cost or purchase conversion rates? So like ultimately those numbers will matter, but that's kind of like your annual or like your monthly decisions on like what numbers are you getting? Do we want to put more budget into that? So you kind of have to explore those numbers more. But at the campaign level, whether it's like the daily and weekly optimizations, the relative optimization is more important. What I mean by relative is that you have 10 ads, turn off the bottom 7. Whatever has the lowest click-through rate, just turn those off. So you know your top 3 is the best that you have. And it doesn't matter for you if it's 1% or 2%, because it's the best that you have. So then just turn off the worst. So when you're looking at any of those metrics we talked about before, and let's say like you're one day in and you're kind of like already through 50% of your budget, where like, I don't know how much more I want to spend. Like at that point, turn off like 10 to 20% of like all of your ads, which are probably like your bottom like 10 to 20% of the ads. If you're like getting more into and more of your budget, then cut another 10 to 20% of the ads like half a day later. And then the next day, another 20 to 25%. So like 2 days in, you may have already cut like 50 to 75% of your ads, and you're just left with the top 25%, and you still have some budget left to see that out of those 25%, what's like the top 5%. It's kind of getting more data to see which ones are getting the most engagement and click-through rate. So basically it's the relative comparison. That's why it's key, like following this kind of like scientific experiment where everything is the same, only the images are different. Everything is the same, only the copy is different. Or then like later on, you can like test audiences and kind of like try to scale, but that's when you get into bigger budgets. I would say like $500 per day and more, that when you want to like explore more on like other types of optimization and scaling. So when you're kind of keeping everything constant, that's when it's easy to say everything is the same. This one has higher click-through rates, turn off all of the rest. So kind of taking that relative comparison approach of like killing ads really fast.
Oh, I love that methodology. And there's one more thing that I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about, because I know that everyone is wondering this question right now, is how do you use Facebook ads or many chat bots or anything related to Facebook ads to get more reviews on Amazon?
Yeah, so this is where, so there's 2 parts. One is new potential customers, or 2 existing customers. I think the easier one to talk about, just because there's been a lot more testing and because it's higher chance of working, is that it's with users that have already like bought from you. So for that, you have to have, you should be able to retarget your Amazon customers. And there's a lot of tools out there that do this part, and Zon Tracker does this too, is where it pulls like the Amazon customers, and there's like 3 or 4 other tools that do this as well. So Zon Tracker pulls in 1 year of history of your Amazon customers, and then that could be a retargeting audience. And you can say like only this ASIN, like a certain product that was bought, or only a certain purchase price, or did they use a discount or not. So then you could do retargeting to previous customers. And I think that's where that's where you have to test the funnel of what you're saying. Kind of how like before there's a lot of like email strategies, kind of email through Amazon, where that's how the main way of getting reviews. So you still try that same content, but then you do it through Facebook ads. So that's kind of like a very basic approach, and it's like the easiest one because you're taking your existing customers and then you're running retargeting ads to them. The next level of that is you could take that same audience that you pull from Amazon, you could create lookalike customers based off them, or lookalike audience based off your previous Amazon customers. So then you're running ads to people that are like highly likely to buy. So there's 2 parts here. Like one is going to be at like just kind of very advanced. Like one, you just have to test all kinds of funnels of getting people to leave reviews, and there's some on a very big range from white hat to black hat of, you know, whether you're like giving rebates or just kind of like a discount, or you're asking for reviews. I think like the more engagement you get when you're getting like extending that customer journey, people are interacting with the brand, there's like more commitment from them on, you know, like getting that product or engaging. So that's what I would say, like try to extend that customer journey. And now it's getting much easier to do that with chatbots. You could still do that with like landing page and like with emails. It's just kind of more like a one-way communication through email, or doing some sort of like sequential videos where you have different videos where it could be like short bits, whether it's about the product or the lifestyle, or kind of like a survey or a quiz in the form of videos, but they're kind of like sequential videos. So you know that if they watch a certain percentage of the video, they'll only watch the second video if they watch the first one. So by the time somebody watches the 5th one, you know that person is going to be much more likely to for you to ask them something, and they'll do it. And then that ask can be whatever you want, leaving a review, buying a product, a rebate, anything from that aspect.
And is that through ManyChat, or are you just sending them a video within Facebook Messenger?
I meant just like a Facebook ad as a video, and then like your call to actions is just like the copy. So that's like a more basic version, and you could apply the exact same strategy to chatbots, but chatbots, it like adds an extra level of complexity, just like email would be. Again, like this age, it's really simplified, so you could do it as well, but it could be just like different videos as the ad itself. So then another thing you could do, and this is after you're already doing this, your lookalike audience is based off of your Amazon customers. So then once you know who's engaging with whatever that funnel is, your videos or your chatbot or your email sequence, at the same time, you could be building a lookalike audience of like those most engaged subscribers or those Facebook users. So then you could like then over time switch over your lookalike audience, not just your previous customers, but who are the ones that are more likely to engage in this like extended customer journey. In other words, it may be the ones that are more likely to actually like leave a review over time.
I love that. So you are narrowing down your most engaged customers, even out of the customers that you currently have. And like for people who they don't have that many sales on Amazon, it will take some time to be able to build an audience like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a two-phase thing. You're starting with taking the customers you already have from Amazon and then sending ads to them. And then once that base is big enough, narrowing that down with the people who are the most engaged over the course of a bunch of different videos. And then creating a lookalike audience out of only your most engaged people. That is a genius strategy.
Well, yeah. I mean, you just have to like just try one of them and then just like optimize afterwards work. And I know to some people they're like, all right, all of those kind of sounded complex. But a simple version would be where you could have just one video on a landing page, but make sure it's a long video. Like it has to be at least 3 minutes, because then you could build a lookalike audience on how much time somebody is spending on that Facebook page. So it's kind of like a shorter version of everything else. It's like not extending the customer journey, so you don't need a whole bunch of videos or like a long sequence, but it's just one video on one page and how long are they engaging with on that page. So you kind of like use the feature in Facebook.
Are these videos like, could be an instructional video, or it could be like something that's adding more value to the product they've already purchased? Is that the idea?
If that first example is where it's a previous customer, yes. But I think like the bigger reach is when you're like trying to get just like a lookalike audience. So it's not really previous customers. You're kind of trying to get them into the funnel where at some point they'll become a customer and then leave a review. For that one, like instructional probably is not going to work. It should be more about like the lifestyle or like a problem that it solves, or even starting off as something as I'm just like engaging content, and then over time the video transitions into like very directly about the product, and then like the actual offer, which is, you know, kind of putting them into that sequence of at some point leaving the review. So then when you know if somebody still watched that part and then they're watching the instructions of like how to leave the review and it's like all in the same video, then you know that's probably like your warmest audience because they saw the content and everything through. They didn't just like leave the video when they saw that, oh, this is becoming a pitch for a product, or actually like buying the product.
Very, very interesting. And this is all very complicated stuff, right? Is there any resources that you have that like maybe some diagrams or some things that if someone is a visual learner that they could look at?
So I do have a Zon Tracker Facebook group. There's some content in there. Probably not as much detail as I'm talking about it, but I'm working on different guides. It's kind of like simpler versions, because I had some videos that are longer and they're just like these over 1 hour long videos of me talking about all of this stuff. So I think I want to like categorize it more. So not at the moment, but I'm working on some. And I'm like in my Facebook group, I know there's a lot of other like Facebook and Amazon expert in there, and they have their own Facebook group. So there's some people that I highly recommend, but then you can see that in the Facebook group.
Awesome, guys. And I'll put a link to that in the show notes and the video description here. So yeah, I'm a member of that group, and Yev is posting in there very valuable stuff all the time. So if you want to learn this stuff, very good place to learn it. And man, this has been super, super valuable. Hopefully this wasn't too far over the heads of a lot of people, but at the very least, if it was over your head, now you have something to shoot for. You kind of understand, and you're not going to be one of those people that goes onto Facebook ads and spends $200 and then goes posting all these Facebook groups saying that Facebook ads don't work, at least. So yeah, thanks for coming on, man. And yeah, if you want to reach out to Yev, go join that Facebook group, Zon Tracker, and also check out his tool. It's a really interesting tool that if you are doing this stuff, it's going to give you a lot more insight into how your Facebook ads are already working. So any last words, pieces of advice, or anything you want to leave for the audience, Yev?
Yeah, I would say you just have to start off with like little tests and know what you're measuring. So I know it was good you were asking a lot of times like what are you tracking, or like what is the metric? So anytime you run any type of campaign or test, just in the back of your mind have like what am I comparing it to? What am I measuring? Because usually if you start off with one ad, it's going to be really hard to interpret, like how can you improve it or not. So, you know, take one little step further, have 2 variants, you know, because I said like, yeah, to go 35 images, maybe like you're not even going to take the first step because that's just too much. So just take those little steps of adding a little bit more variants. Ask, you know, whether you have team members or VAs or in a Facebook group, kind of like for ideas, you know, like what copy should I use, or kind of like image ideas to kind of build your database of things to test. So kind of like take those little steps.
Oh, I love it, Yev. And honestly, guys, you could listen to this podcast like 3 times and take a bunch of notes, and you just got yourself like $1,000 course. Yev just laid down the value here so hard. So definitely go check out his stuff. And thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Danny. Thanks. Hope it was helpful.
Cheers.